The most harmful people often appear to be winning, but life doesn't balance its books in the spotlight. It collects in the quiet. Stoic philosophers never pursued payback. They watched. Because while you're finding peace in your recovery, consequences are already catching up to them, and fate doesn't miss its target. It feels unjust sometimes, I know. You loved with honesty. You remained faithful even when others dragged your name through the mud. And strangely enough, the ones who lied, disappeared, or deceived now seem to be flourishing, smiling, shining, celebrated. But if something feels off, it's because it is. What you're seeing isn't reality. It's a costume, and karma doesn't chase costumes. It unravels what's beneath. This isn't a video about grudges. It's about seeing clearly, about recognizing what truly happens behind closed doors when someone walks away from something true and pretends it meant nothing. It's about the small but telling signs that the universe is already delivering consequences, not loudly, but in the stillness of their own existence. The same stillness that Stoic masters like Marcus Aurelius embraced, not as a sign of defeat, but as a source of power, because within that quiet, the truth always echoes the loudest. If messages like this bring you healing, strength, or clarity, I have just one small free request. Click subscribe, so you don't miss any of the insights we're crafting together. Now let's begin. They say healing is a quiet thing, but 5 minutes on social media tells a different story. Everyone's announcing their new era, especially the ones who lied, disrespected you, or walked away without a word. They're the loudest voices online. Every photo looks staged. Every smile seems polished. You see golden sunsets, perfect breakfasts, luxury days at the spa, all with captions packed with buzzwords like healing, alignment, and growth. At first it might rattle you. You start to wonder, were they always this happy? Did I mean nothing? Am I the only one who felt pain? But pause. Breathe, because genuine peace doesn't require promotion. Real healing doesn't need hashtags. When someone is truly at ease, they have nothing to prove. They're not performing for approval. They're simply living, fully, honestly, quietly. Stoic philosophers understood this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius said, "Stop arguing about what a good person should be. Just be one." In other words, true growth is lived, not displayed. But those who wronged you, they rush to put on a show. Why? Because deep inside something's unsettled. All that posting, that hyper-happy energy, it's not power, it's compensation. It's their mind saying, "I'm okay, I didn't lose anything." But they did. And a part of them knows it. The ones who broke something precious act as if they never touched it. But here's a final thought. Don't mistake their visibility for victory. Socrates once said, "An unreflective life isn't worth living." And yet, most people run from self-awareness. They drown in distractions, dress up their lives, avoiding the mirror. But not you. You faced the darkness. You sat with your hurt. You did the work that no filter or follower count could ever imitate. And so the next time you're scrolling, the next time their face pops up and you feel that sting, take a breath. Remember this, peace doesn't shout, it lives, and you're living it, quietly, deeply, authentically. That's strength, that's transformation. Keep moving forward, let them promote a fantasy. You're busy creating a life that actually feels good to live. Life doesn't always strike like thunder when someone causes damage. Sometimes it simply withdraws, a friend who no longer texts back. A promising opportunity that never materializes. A new relationship. They were excited to show off now feels strangely empty, like holding hands with someone who doesn't recognize them. From the outside, everything appears normal, but something's missing, and they can't quite explain it, but you can. Because when someone wounds a heart that was open and true, the universe doesn't respond with explosions. It balances, naturally, silently. What they lose first are the things they never thought to cherish: your compassion, your patience, the warmth of being seen, really seen. And it's not just your absence that stings, it's who they became when they were with you that's missing now. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely and for someone who hurt you. That is the struggle. To face a reflection that reminds them they rejected something pure, so life shows them. Not to punish, but to make them aware. In the beginning, it's easy to blame coincidence, a missed opportunity here, an unreliable connection there, but slowly, a pattern emerges. Their conversations lack depth. The thrill of new friends fades fast. They try to replace what you gave them, but it never fits, because you weren't just a person. You were presence. You were sanctuary. You were energy that calmed storms they never told you they had." Stoicism reminds us, our job isn't to control what happens outside us, but to master our inner world. Epictetus wrote, "It's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them." So while they look for distractions to escape the void, you remain centered. You know the value of what they lost, even if they're just beginning to feel it. The people they're around now, maybe they're fun, entertaining, temporary, but they don't listen the way you did. They don't feel the silence. They don't understand the language of emotion, the quiet pauses, the slight shift in expression, and that lack of depth starts to hurt. Not loudly, but like a slow tightening knot. Plato said, "We can forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy is when grown men fear the light." And that's what this is, a fear of seeing clearly. Because clear vision means confronting the fact that they lost something sacred, something they treated as replaceable. But you weren't just a phase, you were home. Now, no matter where they run or who they turn to, they're searching for that feeling, the one they never understood until it was gone. You didn't give them attention, you gave them peace. You poured into them a rare energy that can't be faked, and once it's gone, it's not coming back. The Stoics lived in alignment, with integrity, with nature, with self. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." When someone betrays their inner morality, when they deceive or abandon the one who cared, they split from their own center. And that split is what makes life feel hollow. Their wins feel flat. Their celebrations feel forced, because no achievement can fill the void of losing themselves. What they lost wasn't just you. It was who they were with you. Aristotle once asked, "What is a friend?" "A single soul dwelling in two bodies." And that's what they gave up. Not just a person, but a mirror that reflected their deepest self. A place where they felt understood without performing. And now they know they can't get that back. Not easily. Maybe not ever. That is karma, not as a storm, but as a gradual unraveling. You didn't slam the door. You just stopped answering it. And while they carry on with their life, pretending all is well, the truth waits for them each night in the quiet, in the messages that go unreplied, in the realization that everyone around them only knows their performed self. Let that be enough for you. You don't need to argue. You don't need to announce your worth. Just be still. Let life do what life does best, reveal. And when it does, they'll see everything they lost, everything they couldn't hold, everything they weren't ready to receive. Some truths don't need volume. They live in actions, in patterns, in silences that scream louder than words. You know this. You've felt it. The same person who once crossed your boundaries now shares quotes about energy and betrayal. The same one who ignored your love now posts wisdom about loyalty. They don't mention you, they don't tag names, but you feel the shift. That isn't growth, that's guilt in disguise. A conscience struggling to speak in symbols because it can't face truth directly. Carl Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life, and you'll call it fate." And that's exactly what's unfolding here. Those who truly know peace don't throw quotes like daggers on a timeline. They don't stage their healing for an audience. Real healing isn't loud. It's in the way you speak to others, the way you move through the world. Not in a caption, not in a scripted reel. It's lived, not displayed. Stoics knew this well. Epictetus once taught that our lives should speak for us, that if someone spoke badly about us, no one would believe it. That kind of character needs no platform, just presence. But what you're seeing online isn't presence, it's attachment. They're still looped into the story while you've stepped out of the scene. That's why their posts feel like subtext with your name hidden in them. You've become more than a memory. You've become a symbol, a reminder of who they were with you and what they lost when they didn't see your worth. Plato once said the soul remembers what the ego tries to bury. And they're burying regret, masked in half-healed philosophy and indirect messages. Their energy speaks what their pride never will. And you went quiet. You stepped away. And that stillness, it echoes. To someone who expected drama, your lack of reaction is deafening. They hoped for a response, anything to prove they still had access to your heart. But you gave them nothing. And that isn't weakness, it's power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who did the harm." You've embodied that revenge, not out of spite, but by evolving, by refusing to fight for closure, by not wasting breath on lies, by standing still while they try to spin a new story. Let them write their versions. Let them pen verses disguised as apologies. All it proves is this: they haven't moved on. You have. You owe no explanations. Not to them, not to anyone. Aristotle said, character is the most powerful form of persuasion, and your character, your calm, your discipline, your stillness speaks louder than any retort could. This is your peace. Not just the relief of escaping chaos, but the knowing you didn't lose anything walking away. They did. They lost you. They lost access to a genuine soul. And now they're trying to weave you back into their narrative with posts and poems. But you're no longer a character in their drama. You're the author of your own story. So stay grounded, stay quiet, because your silence isn't empty. It's a mirror. And the longer they stare into it, the more they're forced to see beyond the filters and photoshopped memories. Not the image they present, but the person they really are. That's not cruelty, that's consequence. And the best part? You never had to lift a hand. There's something that happens when someone betrays a pure heart. At first, they mock. They call you too much, too emotional. As if feeling deeply was a defect, but give it time. The smirks fade, their laughter grows edgy, their trust shrinks, and their circle even smaller. The shift doesn't start externally, it starts inside, like a fault line in the foundation. When you betray someone who was good to you, you don't just lose them. You lose your ability to recognize goodness. Every gesture feels like a trick. Every kindness comes with doubt. Because you know what people are capable of, you've seen it in your own reflection. Jung put it clearly, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of others. And once you cross a line you swore you'd never cross, your mind keeps a record. You begin to project that darkness everywhere. Trust is replaced by suspicion. They assume everyone will lie, leave, or deceive, because they did, and that is karma at its most subtle. Not a blaze, but a drip, eroding the edges of who they used to be. Their confidence becomes calculated, their smile tightens, and unknowingly they build walls not to protect themselves, but to contain the guilt. Aristotle once said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, but most don't want to know. They avoid the silence, they fill their schedules. Anything to escape the voice inside that asks, what if I'm the one to blame? And the longer they run, the louder that voice becomes. This is what Stoicism prepares you for, not just life's outer chaos, but the inner storm. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and if your mind is saturated in regret, in paranoia, in shame, the world starts to mirror that. They might look confident, but the foundation is fractured, so they close off, they hide. And love, real love, requires openness, requires trust, and once you've hurt someone who embodied that, it's hard to believe you deserve it again." Plato spoke of the divided soul, a war between reason, spirit, and desire. The one who betrayed you is living in that war. They may never say it out loud, but you can see it in the isolation, in the flinch when connection gets too deep, in the expectation that good things won't last. They're not protecting themselves, they're waiting for karma, for payback, because if they could hurt someone who meant something, surely it can happen to them too. But you've risen. You set boundaries, not barriers. You trusted yourself more. You became wiser, not harder. Stoicism taught you. Feelings are to be observed, not obeyed. We move from principle, not wounds. Epictetus said, "No one is truly free until they command themselves." That's your freedom, the ability to feel without being controlled by feelings. But them, they're caught. Trapped in fear, trapped in guilt, locked in a cycle of expecting hurt where there is none, because they've mistaken distance for protection. They believe withdrawing keeps them safe, when in reality it just keeps them alone. This is how karma operates, not always through drama, but through discomfort, the loss of inner peace, the restlessness in quiet moments, the vanishing trust in themselves. Because when you harm someone who only ever wanted to see you rise, you don't just lose that person. You lose the parts of yourself that felt alive in their presence. So let them wander, let them build walls, but don't follow them into that prison of fear. You've grown too much to shrink again. Keep standing in your wholeness. Keep showing up for yourself. Your depth of emotion was never a problem. It was a mirror, revealing what they weren't ready to see. Socrates said, "To know yourself is the beginning of wisdom." And when someone turns their back on that kind of knowing, confusion settles in, inside them, around them, and eventually through everything they touch. That's the real consequence. Not leaving you, but living with the void left behind. Some lessons don't come with words. They arrive through people, reflections that hold a lesson in their eyes. Someone new enters their life. At first, it's fireworks, chemistry, attraction, intoxication, but then the message is slow. The warmth fades, vulnerability gets mocked. And suddenly, they're left overthinking, questioning themselves, wondering what went wrong. Sound familiar? That's not coincidence. That's poetic justice. Karma doesn't always shout. Sometimes it reflects. It shows them themselves, not as a punishment, but as a lesson. Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us in others can lead us to understanding ourselves. And when the mirror burns, when the behavior feels too familiar, their education begins. The same person who once called you too emotional now lies awake, wondering if they said too much. The one who mocked your honesty now yearns for truth and gets apathy in return. This isn't retribution. This is a shift in view. The pain they caused now returns as understanding. The Stoics lived by nature, and nature knows balance. Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." They thought they could break something sacred and walk away untouched. But life moves in patterns, and when that rhythm is broken, it returns to a line. Now they find themselves chasing connection that always stays just out of reach. They give, they try, but never feel safe. They look for your reaction and find only silence. They reach out for clarity and receive confusion. The exact whirlwind they once spun around you now whips through their own life. Plato once wrote, "Justice in the soul comes before justice in the world," and sometimes that justice arrives not in public, but in the quiet moments no one else sees. You may never hear them apologize, but they feel it in their uncertainty, in their insecurity, in every moment that mirrors their own mistake. And that's the truth. They're not being punished, they're being shown. Life isn't against them, it's just returning what they once sent out. Socrates believed that a life without self-inquiry wasn't worth living. But most people only begin to look within when the reflection becomes unavoidable. That's what this connection was, a mirror. They thought they could walk away untouched. But pain has a way of circling back, not to destroy, but to awaken. This isn't about bitterness, it's about clarity. And now they're starting to see they didn't just lose a person, they lost something sacred. And no matter how much they try to replace it, every new connection feels a little less. Aristotle wrote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is a habit. But if harm becomes a habit, life has a habit of giving it back." So now they find themselves on the other side of the story, looking into the eyes of someone who treats them the way they treated you. And there's nowhere left to hide. So let them sit with that. Let them feel the uncertainty, the echo of the silence that once burned in your heart. Because this isn't revenge, this is restoration. And if they choose to learn from it, let that be their redemption. If not, let that be their cycle. Your path? It's already far ahead, clear, light, free. No longer carrying the burden of feeling too much for the wrong people. Let karma finish its course, quietly, naturally, entirely. Sometimes the most profound justice is the one only they hear. You don't need to seek closure. You are the closure. Let life do what it does best, balance, and you guard your peace like treasure. If this video put into words what your heart has felt, there's another one on screen right now, waiting to take you deeper. Thank you for walking this journey with us here at Stoic Post, where healing isn't loud but it's always real. Until next time, stay centered, stay still, and let your growth do the talking.